Okay, so this is the start of my monthly series where I start recommending manga to people. I don't exactly know what I'm really gonna do. The plan is to upload this from anywhere in the span of the 16th of the 18th of every month, where I'll recommend three manga. Despite the popularity of these manga, even if it's really popular or even if it's really underground, the first three manga I have today, I don't think they're that popular, except for maybe one of them. Um, but it has a terrible anime adaptation anyway, so it's not really talked about much. But anyway, without introductions out of the way of me explaining these series, on the video. First recommendation is Sakamoto Days. Sakamoto Days is a manga about a retired assassin who runs a convenience store since he fell in love with a woman. And he stopped the assassin life despite being the number one assassin in the organization. But there's a rule the organization has that if you leave, you will be killed. So he's hunted down by the organization, and assassins try to kill him and or his family. The first assassin that was sent after him was a guy called Shin, and Shin and Sakamoto fight. But Shin looks up to Sakamoto, and when he finds out he had a family and a child and a wife and a life that he's genuinely happy in, he runs off and begs one of the organization's boss to let Sakamoto live. And of course, the leader of the organization declines and tries to kill him. Sakamoto comes in, saves his life, and Shin joins the crew. We get introduced throughout the entire story, new main characters. There's not a lot to where it feels overbearing and a lot of time are spent on them, but there is a good amount. You get a lot of great fights in this manga as well. This because this is a fighting manga. Great fights. The art also matches the fights really, really well, and I do think the art style is really great in my opinion. I had some of the greatest panels I've ever seen, and I will say this is a newer manga. Came out in 2019, has around 70 chapters, and it's not very long, but I do recommend it. I do think it has the potential to be one of the bigger, good new gen. And to top it all off, the villain is really, really cool so far. We haven't seen a lot of him, so I can give my pure judgment on him. But I do think he is, for what he is so far, really, really cool. His introduction is actually amazing. The art in his introduction is amazing. The way he shows himself off, really, really good. And I do recommend this manga, Sakamoto Days. Second recommendation is Seraph of the End. Now, this did get a pretty decently popular anime adaptation back in the day, but due to the fact it never got a season 3, I see nobody talking about the manga ever. I don't think I've ever seen one person. And with the fact that it's concluding here really soon, if not it already has by the time I'm recording this, can't exactly remember because I stopped reading it to let the chapters build up. Not that it was boring, it's just those chapters build up because it was releasing monthly. Now, Seraph of the End is a manga with a really basic premise. A virus created by vampires wipes out the population of the world except people older than the age of 13. Now, we find out later in the story there were a few individuals that were older than the age of 13 that lived, and we do also find out the true origin of the virus that wiped them out. Now, our main protagonist, Yu, at the start of the story, is a orphan that got kidnapped by the vampires. And he was basically used as livestock for the vampires. They would feed on his blood and do all this, but they could never feed from the source. Because, like, the vampires could never feed on you directly. It would be more like blood bags and stuff like that. So they can never kill their livestock accidentally. Now, one night, the orphans and you decide to escape the captive of the vampires. And one-on-one, they get murdered by one of the vampire higher-ups known as Farid Bathory. If that's how you pronounce his name, I'm really bad with names. Really, really bad with names. But they get slaughtered by him one-on-one. Then, for whatever reason, they let you escape. And that's when you gets found by Gurren, one of the leaders of the Vampire Extermination Unit. Now, you wants revenge on the vampires, wants to join the Vampire Extermination Unit, and it doesn't sound familiar. A lot of people back in the day compared it to AOT, at the very least, the start, anyway, the first season. Because you and Aaron were kind of similar characters on the surface level of wanting revenge on Titans or wanting revenge on vampires, and a lot of people compared it to AOT. Now, it has a lot of differences from AOT that I don't think it should be a fair comparison. Like, there's demon weapons, there's a mystery, and there's a mystery to the story, which is the Salt King, or as the humans call it, the Seraph of the End. And there's just a lot of different stuff that there's a lot of different stuff the manga has going for it, which aren't very surface level. And I do think the manga art does look really good, in my opinion. I love the art style a lot. And there's a major, major twist halfway through. I would probably honestly put this, I don't know if it would be a great, great twist in terms of like god level twists in storytelling, but I do think it is at least a tier, around an A tier twist if I had to put it in a tier list, and I think that's really good in and of itself. I would recommend maybe watching the anime because the OST is really good, but season 1 is really good. Season 2, I don't know what Wit Studio was doing. Yeah, this is animated by Wit, by the way. At the same time, they were animating AOT. Very unfortunate. I think Seraph of the End deserved that quality of animation as well, but not a big deal. But they skipped a lot of things in Season 2, and it just falls off in comparison to Season 1. But reading the manga, it didn't fall off. There are some rough patches in the manga, I think, with the storytelling, because the story isn't perfect at all, I wouldn't say. But I do think it is a worth read. The fights are really good. The characters are really, really, really good. And again, like I said, it has one of the greatest twists I've ever read. This does conclude the second recommendation, and on with the next one. The next manga recommendation is, of course, the anime that I was talking about, with it being pretty popular, had a really mid adaptation, and then it just fell off in terms of popularity. I still see some people talking about it here and there, and I will say it is pretty fairly well known, but it's Record of Ragnarok. Record of Ragnarok, I will say, is probably one of the best battle manga out there right now. I do think the fights are really, really, really amazing. It has a very, very basic premise. It's an entire tournament manga, which could feel very repetitive for some people, but for me, it really doesn't. The characters are really enjoyable despite not having a lot to them, and what I mean by that is they don't have a massive backstory. We don't get a lot of time with them, but what I really love about Record is we get a lot about the character just by their personality alone and the way they dress, body language, and this is before we even get their backstory, because we do get the backstories for a lot of the actually almost every single one of the characters we get their backstory from, but it's not till the middle of the fight after the character's introduced, so it doesn't feel like you're forced to like them because of their backstory. Now, the art for Record, right, I'm always gotta mention the art, is actually really, really good. It's shockingly impressive for a battle manga, which sounds really weird, but I've read a lot of battle manga where the art is kind of okay, but the fights are amazing. Record is not one of those. Record has really, really good art, really good choreography, and like I said, it's a very basic plot. So the plot is the gods want to wipe out humanity. Now, when I say gods, I don't mean random ass gods. I'm talking every god mythos you can think of is in Record. Every single one of them. There are probably some obscure ones that I don't know, but the major big ones are there. Like Greek, Norse mythology, a lot of those are there, and they want to wipe out humanity because they see them as vile and evil and a mistake. And basically, a Valkyrie steps up, which in this universe is a god's weapon. Now, I don't know if that's how they are actually, because I'm not a very big mythos guy with a lot of other mythologies, so if they are, I apologize, but in this story, they are the god's weapons. One of them, who she steps up and she tells the gods, if you want to wipe out humanity, at least let humanity prove themselves, right? At least show them that they have the capacity to rival gods. Now, all the gods are outraged by her and say that she's wrong. No vile human can compare to gods. None of them. Then she proceeds to call them all cowards. They're scared of humans. Won't let them ever compete with gods. Have a tournament. Prove that you are better. And that's how it starts. Now, the first fight is honestly not a terrible introduction fight. Lobo versus Thor. Not terrible, but I will say it's about a B tier fight. Now, the rest of the fights after that, Adam versus Zeus, Hyodro versus Poseidon, Jack the Ripper versus Hercules. All of these are amazing, and I do have to just recommend it. I think, honestly, if it had a great anime adaptation, it would be a lot more popular than it was, but unfortunately, Netflix got it, and we all know how Netflix treats anime adaptations. And this is, like I said, the only recommendation I have. I will be doing this, like I said at the start of the video. Every month, I'll be recommending 3 manga that I've read, despite being popular or being very underground. And I do want to know down below, what recommendations of manga do you have for me? I already saw one person in one of my videos recommended me the Blame manga, and I have already started checking it out as recording of this video. I will keep my thoughts on it sealed for now. Another thing is, just because a manga comes in the manga recommendations doesn't mean it won't get its full video. Trust me, these 3 series will be getting a full video on their own. They all 3 deserve it, especially Sakamoto Days and Ragnarok. Seraph at the end I'm a bit iffy about because of how it's a longer series, and I don't know how I'm going to handle that as of yet. Kind of, you know, new to this whole YouTube thing, figuring it out. But I do want to talk about a character from Seraph because I do really love that character. But this is all I have for this month. Like I said, next month around the 16th to 18th, I will be releasing another manga recommendations. I'm going to try to pick 3 more underground manga that I have read to see exactly if I can get them out, recommend them to more people. And like I said, this is all I got for now. If you enjoyed the video, if you checked out any of these manga, let me know down below what you think of them. If you've read any of them, let me know down below what you think of them. And please, like always, like the video, subscribe. It really helps out the channel, by the way. I know I'm very low on subscribers, but if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. It helps me out a lot. Really want to grow this channel out to be something I can do. And that's all I gotta say. Signing off.